Other side. Hello everyone, this is Álvaro de Salvo speaking, Mr. Cover Letter. I would like to check that there's people on the other side of the screen. So if you could just say hi and type where you are from, that would be great. So we get us started. I will see stuff here on the chat. Is there anybody out there? Okay. Okay, hello. There's a bit of a technical issue, Karen. I cannot see the people in the chat. Oh, there. Hi everyone. I got it. Hello everyone. This is Álvaro de Salvo, aka Mr. Cover Letter. Nice to have you here. I'm really happy to be here, and I want to thank Here to Work for inviting me. So as I was saying, as I cannot see the audience and I would like to get some feedback so we get to know each other, I would like, if it's possible, for you just to type from where you're from, and so then I can get to know you a little bit. I see we have Nuria from Mexico living in the NL. Is there anybody else there? Hello, Álvaro, Dominica. Okay, cool. So I want to be very mindful of the time. We only have 30 minutes, 20 for me to share really interesting things with you, and then we're gonna have a 10-minute for a Q&A. So I would like to start with a small icebreaker. So as people join in, I would like to ask you to share with you what is it that you want to solve. And as I say this, I would like you to share a phrase here in the chat that starts saying with, I help Dutch companies, or I want to help companies in the Netherlands to solve X problem. And I would like to ask you to think about your skills. So for example, if you come from a marketing background, you could say something like, I want to help companies in the Netherlands to do better marketing campaigns. Or if you work in design, you could say something like, I want to help companies in the Netherlands to design better websites or better brochures. So if we take ourselves 1 minute, you could share that with me, so then we can see what type of skills do we have in the room. And as you start typing that and you share what is it that you want to work on, I would like to scroll down and see what everybody else is sharing, so that if you find something that is interesting to you, that other person is also doing, I want you to connect to them, because the idea of these meetings is also that we get to expand our network and also to connect with others. So as we do that, let's see if I cannot see much of the stream of comments, but I trust that people will start sharing. So I guess I'll just start with my presentation. I'm going to put a timer so we make sure we're mindful of the time, and I'll just start sharing my screen. So as I said, this meeting is to discuss 3 steps to land a great job faster. And this is based on my personal experience, and this is what I want to share with you today. And I'm Álvaro de Salvo, founder of Mr. Cover Letter. I'm a personal brand expert and a job coach at Mr. Cover Letter, where I help people improve the way they present themselves so they can land a great job faster. But the reality is that I wasn't, or I didn't want to be a personal brand expert all my life. And this story starts 20 years ago when everything I wanted to do is be a rock star. This is a picture taken with my grandfather. We had a band together, and when I was a teenager, all I wanted to do was to study music. And I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then I realized that it was going to be really difficult for me to make a living out of it. So I decided to pursue other studies. I studied business administration, and then I specialized in marketing and communications. So this is a story of how I transitioned from a potential rock star to a personal brand expert and what I learned along the way, and this is what I want to share with you today. So everything changed in February 2012 when I followed love back to the Netherlands. I'm originally Argentinian, and I fell in love and I followed now my wife in the Netherlands in that year. It was a year where the canals were frozen. It was beautiful, but I had to make a living and find a job. So for the course of 3 months, I did over 100 applications. I got something like one and a half interviews because I couldn't really tell if there were even interviews. There were just meetings with people in which I thought I was going to get a job. But at the end of those 3 months, I basically got 0 job offers. So that story was really, really frustrating. It was one of the most frustrating periods of my time. But thanks to that is it that I'm here talking to you, and I want to share you what happened. So after 3 months being really frustrated, I decided to ask feedback, to contact recruiters, to extend my network, to ask people of, hey, what is it that I'm doing wrong here in the Netherlands? So could you give me some feedback? And I started to learn and to make adjustments on the way I was presenting myself and the way I was reaching out to organizations. So all of a sudden time after that, I started getting interviews, and I got my first job as a communications manager of a cultural network. And I also got a job as a researcher on another cultural network, and then I pivoted my career to the NGO sector in a technological company. I started in a position of communications, and I started getting other promotions in marketing and marketing director, and I did quite a nice career. And from that moment in which I started hiring people, I was able to be on the other side of the table, and I had the chance to evaluate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes, either to hire for my own team or for other teams, and I learned a lot. And it was only until that moment that I got to see so many resumes that I got an aha moment. You know, I could really see what are the main issues that people have when they present themselves. And I could also see a lot of the mistakes that I did back on my first intent to land a job in the Netherlands. So to put it bluntly, I kind of see 3 things when it comes to presentation and applications online. And the first one is vague language. There's a lot of vague language when it comes to presenting. And you probably might be familiar with things like, hey, I'm a proactive team member, and I'm a team player, or I'm the perfect candidate. You know, those are things that we all see in ourselves, but it's things that also everybody says, and it's difficult to judge if you really are proactive or a team player. Or sometimes when people apply, it's not clear what the motivation is. I mean, everybody wants a job, but in the end, the true intrinsic motivation is sometimes really difficult to see in an application. Or many times, it was also really difficult to read what's the connection between the need. I mean, people put a job application out there because they have a need. And sometimes when people apply, it's really difficult to connect that. And also, there was sometimes or many times lack of evidence or proof that a person could do the job. So it's only by being there that I thought, hey, there's a huge opportunity here to help people and try to avoid the same things that I was doing on my career. So I decided to do a really deep dive, and I come from a background of business administration. I studied marketing and communications. I read a lot about storytelling. I'm a goal-setting coach as well. I did try to research on best practices on hiring or interviewing. And although I'm not working as an HR person or as a recruiter, I was involved in many hiring processes. I studied copywriting. I do a lot of personal development myself. I read about it. And I also decided to learn, because of my challenges setting a life here, about networking. So I decided to mix everything and say, okay, how is it that I can best help people? So I founded Mr. Call Letter in 2017. I did a first workshop where 5 people attended for a course of 8 hours, in which we work on cover letters and the applications and resumes, and it was really fun. And then, because I was working on the side of my job, I did this on the side, and I decided to do a free email course where I put all this knowledge for free available on my website. And then in 2019, I decided to write a book, which I publish, and it's available online also from my website, putting all this knowledge out there in a format that people could easily digest. As of 2020, I decided to make this my career full-time. I quit my job, and since April, I'm doing this on a full-time basis, helping people one-on-one or in groups, just to improve the way they present themselves. And so far, I helped 150 people find a job they love. So what I want to share with you, just want to check the time. What I want to share with you is 3 truths that I see on the job market and some tips that you can use to improve the way you land your job. So the first truth is that organizations hire people to solve problems. So if I ask you, your kitchen sink is leaking, who do you call to solve it? I'm gonna take some pause here to take some water. Your kitchen sink or your bathroom is not working, who do you call to solve it? If you can share that in the chat, that would be great. Anyone? Okay. Take some time to appear, so I'll just answer. You're probably thinking like me. If you have a problem in your sink, you are going to call the plumber, right? Now, one of the issues that I see is that when people put a job application out there and they ask for the plumber, people appear and present themselves like this, right? And there's nothing wrong with having a lot of skills and a lot of strength and education and studies and job experience, but sometimes it's really difficult to match those to a real need of an organization. So one of the things that I usually advise is that we need to clarify what it is that we offer and what problems we want to solve. Now, in our personal experience, careers are usually not linear. Everybody has a different path, quite unique, with studies, with jobs, with experiences, with roles. So the idea is that when you pursue a job opportunity, you try to define really, really clearly what's the main problem or the 2 or the 3 main problems that you want to solve. And that's the idea why I asked you in the beginning to share that in the chat, because if you focus on the problems you solve, it's most likely that you are going to create resonance. So for example, as an example of Mr. Cover Letter, I see that many job seekers struggle to come across well online, in person, and in print. That's the problem. And I help job seekers clarify their value, engage with hiring managers, and get job interviews and offers so they can land a great job faster. That's clear, it's simple, it's to the point. So my invitation, you can screenshot this, and it's a really simple way to portray the value you bring to a problem so that people would pay more attention. So the invitation is you can use this format and try to replicate that with what you shared just a bit ago in the chat. So the tip number 2 that I have is to clarify how your past connects with your present and your future goals. As I said, we all have different paths and unique career journeys. But sometimes, it can be really challenging for a hiring manager or somebody on the other side of the table to connect those. So we need to do the job for them. So basically, how I like to divide this, sometimes this can be really challenging because everything mixes in our heads. So the idea is that we focus first on the past. We get really clear about our educational and professional experiences, our achievements, and our responsibilities. So one of the things you usually see when you see a lot of applications is that people focus a lot on their responsibilities, but little on the effect their work had on the job they had. And this is something really important to pay attention to. Whenever you talk about yourself or you do a job applications, try to portray the influence and the outcomes that your work brought to the job. Things that could be stuff like saving time or improving a process or increasing revenue or reducing the costs. I mean, if you Google how to portray responsibilities into achievements, there's a lot of information out there, but this is one of the key points that really makes a difference in showing how you can be of benefit for a role. Now, when you look about the present, it's very important to connect with your values, the things that are really important for you, and also with your core abilities and how to explain those in a really simple way. And part of the things that I ask you to do in this chat at the beginning has to do with those core abilities. What are you really good at? What are your strengths? How can you talk about them in a way that makes sense? And if you can connect your past with your present, it's very important that looking forward, you can really define 1 or 2 or 3 problems you want to solve so that people, when they hear you, they can connect better with how you can be of value. And also, it's very important to portray job opportunities, shortlist them, make a really scope of focus of where do you want to put your efforts in pursuing a job, and try to connect with people that can help you get there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So, how are we doing so far? Everything's good. If you can give me some feedback on the chat, and I'll take some seconds to drink some water. Okay, the plumber. I want to help companies better understand travel IT businesses. I want to help Dutch companies deliver software projects. That's really good. So try to connect or at least pick the names of people you see things you want to do and try to connect them on LinkedIn and even have a chat afterwards. So let's continue. The truth number 2, job searching has changed a lot, but deep down it's still the same. And what do I mean with that? This is a really nice image that can symbolize a lot of things, but in this particular case, I see it this way. So on the surface, you have all the stuff that you need to do in order to get a job. You need to have a LinkedIn profile, have a really nice resume. You need to know how to pitch your services. You need to do some job searching. There's also changes in this way this happens, like the artificial intelligence or the application tracking systems. You need to get good at networking. You need to know how to write a cover letter. The list is infinite, and there's also changing within time, right? But deep down, in the end, what happens is that we need to create resonance. And what happens is when there's a click with a hiring manager or an organization, what's happening really underneath is the following. People are asking from both sides, do we like each other? Do we trust each other? Can we make it work? That's what really makes the difference. So there's a reason why I say this, which I'll clarify in a bit, but it's very important to have this distinction because many times people get really focused on the technicalities, as in, hey, how should I write the cover letter or the resume? But what's more important is to have a clear story on what is it that you want to solve, for whom, how are you going to do that, and how are you going to connect with people that can understand the value you have to offer. So what are my tips for that? It's becoming engaging. And yes, you need to create a solid resume, you need to create an engaging cover letter, and you need to create an inviting LinkedIn profile. That's the first part. It's a storytelling aspect. It's a visual. It's what you say to the people you want to work with. And I'll give you some quick tips. I'm called Mr. Cover Letter for a reason. It's because I love cover letters. Many people will say, hey, cover letters are not read. I believe they are. Not probably by the same persons that you think they do, but there is a reason why cover letters are very important. So I'll just give you some tips really quickly so that you can take advantage of this. In my opinion, the resume needs to be a one page. It needs to be short, sweet, to the point, and very simple but clear. It needs to be lean and clean so that it passes the application tracking system. If you Google this, if you don't know what the application tracking system is, Google it. You'll find a lot of stuff, but the idea is that you keep your design simple with only text, bullets, and not much more that could take the focus away of the fact that you can really do a job. That's what matters. And then it needs to portray achievements and responsibilities, but moreover, a lot of achievements or the ones you have rather than only responsibilities. Because the issue with responsibilities is that they don't tell me if you were good at them or not. In terms of cover letters, I think one of the main things is that it needs to connect three things. It needs to connect the need, the organizational need. What is the organization needing to solve and why are they hiring you? And it needs to connect with your promise and the proof that you can do the job. And of course, this sounds easy, but sometimes it's not, and I know it. But in general, those are, for me, the three things that need to happen. Because what usually happens is that cover letter talk about a lot. People talk about themselves, and I did this, and I did that, and I studied this, or they replicate the resume, but they don't make that connection of, hey, you have this problem, I did this, I think I can do it for you. So that's a whole world apart. And you need to have a clear problem you solve in your LinkedIn, because usually when people Google you, that's the first thing that appears. I mean, I know there are other colleagues here on this forum talking specifically about LinkedIn. I would really pay attention to what they have to say, because that's what's ranking more nowadays when people look for you. And it's advisable to have all the section fields. If people can give recommendations about your work, and you can do a really deep dive from all your professional history. You will tell me, hey, Alvaro, how do I do a one-page resume? It's possible. It's LinkedIn the place that you need to use to actually fill in whole detail everything that you've done. But in the resume, we are only gonna spotlight the things that are really relevant to the job you want to apply. And it's also nice because LinkedIn is the biggest database of professionals nowadays to interact and educate about the work you do or the problems you solve there. And, oh, sorry, that's a bit cut. Another metaphor of this iceberg is that job opportunities that you see online are usually a chunk of the job market, and there's a lot of job opportunities that are actually filled but not even published online. So this is a very important topic these days, because everybody is usually, from what I'm seeing and the people I'm helping, only applying online. And when you apply online these days, you're usually applying against another 100 or 150 or 100, 200 people. So if you think about the numbers, the percentage of the chances of actually getting into an interview is quite low against those numbers. So it's very important to have this idea that actually there are a lot of job opportunities out there that are just not published. So the tip that I have for you is to think that many times these days, HR departments or recruiters actually look like this. They're really, really filled with applications, and it takes a lot of effort to go over them and to select. So my tip is actually to engage with people and not machines. And if there is one thing I can transmit you from this talk today, let me check the time, is that it's much better to connect to 100 people rather than to send 100 applications. Every week I talk to people that have been applying for months, 2, 3, 6 months, 50, 100, 150, 200 applications, little interviews, just like it happened to me almost 10 years ago. So if I would have to do it all over, I would say go and meet people, try to make connections with people in the places you want to work for. It's going to bring a lot more results. Last truth, searching for a great job is pretty much like blind dating. And I think you will agree with me. What would happen if you would have a blind date and 5 minutes into the date, the person in front of you would tell you, would you marry me? How would you feel about that? If you want to share in the chat for a second. Well, it would be pretty crazy, right? So we need to understand that the job searching process, it has a rhythm, and that rhythm has, in my opinion, 3 stages. The first one is to generate curiosity, right? You go into the date, you see if there's a click, if there's a feeling, and then if you go out on a date on a second time, on a third time, you jump into the engagement phase. Maybe you go to the movies or you spend more time together. And then if things go more serious, then you go into a commitment phase. And maybe down the line at some point, you marry. In terms of job searching, it's not much different. You need to generate curiosity first, and then you do that with an engaging job applications, with meeting people that might understand the value you have to offer, and you do it through connections. And once you get into an interview or a proper date, you start engaging with each other and try to explore how is it that you can be of help with each other. And if things go right and there's excitement and everybody likes each other and trusts each other and things, they can make it work, there's commitment and you get a job offer. So basically what I advise for this stage is to get really comfortable with rejection, just like dating. Rejection is part of the process, and I like to see rejection as just redirection. It's really painful. I had it myself. It's really not nice. But if there's a second thing I could transmit you here, is that I wouldn't be here talking to you today if I wouldn't have been rejected so much times in my life. And that's part of the things that, looking back, I got to enjoy the process of how I got to today and how I can also help people in their journeys. So another point that I find interesting here is to understand that rejection has nothing to do with you. When you do an application and you put all that effort and all those hours into writing the cover letter or tweaking the resume or doing the research, it feels really, really bad, and I know it, but it's not related to you. They're only rejecting a piece of paper, an email, an application. It has nothing to do with your abilities or your lack of abilities or your incapacity to do the job. And many times the person that's selected for a job is not the best one, and it has to do with a lot of the things that I've been sharing. So think of it, rejection is redirection for something better. And as a last tip, get to do the right things in the right order at the right time. Remember, first generate curiosity, then engage more, and then you'll get to a commitment phase. So as a last thing, I'm checking the time. We are on the 24 minutes mark, and I want to have time for questions. The job hunting trifecta is a combination of having the proper experience for the job. Do I have the educations? Do I have the certificates? Can I do the work? It has to do with your attitude of how you present yourself, how you connect with people, how you show your value. And it also has to do with luck. Sometimes luck exists, good luck, bad luck. So my focus is usually to say, let's focus on that stuff that we can control. And we can control our experience, and we also can improve our attitude. So don't focus too much on the luck. It's like that phrase from Pablo Picasso, luck, inspiration exists, but it needs to find you working. There's something similar here. Luck exists, but it needs to find you doing the work, having the experience, having the attitude. So as a last thing, these are my recommendations. I invite you to screenshot, or if you want, you just can get in touch with me, send me an email if there's something that's not clear or you would like to know more. I'm super approachable. Shoot me an email or contact me, and I'm happy to discuss more. As a wrapping up, clarify the problem you solve, for whom, how and what results you can bring, clarify how your past connects with your present and your future goals, create a solid resume, an engaging cover letter, and an inviting LinkedIn profile, engage with people, not machines, try to connect with 100 people rather than spending time sending 100 applications, learn to get comfortable with rejection. Rejection is redirection, and get to do the right things in the right order at the right time. First, generate curiosity, then engagement, then commitment. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Karen, I'm open for questions. I think I'll stop sharing my screen. If that makes sense. And in the meantime, until Karen appears, if you want to share with me what you found most valuable from this chat and put it in the chat, that would also help me see how you felt about it.
Hi, Alvaro.
Hey,
I'm
Karen.
here. Great presentation. Thank you very much for all these tips and all this data that is really, really valuable in the moment that we are in the process of looking for job offers or trying to help someone to do so. We have some interaction here
Good.
in our chat at
Yeah,
the
sorry
beginning
if
when you
I went too fast, but there's a lot of I wanted to share in a limited amount of time.
don't worry. So I think we're able to answer or just to make sure that people is going to we can answer a couple of them because we don't have much time. Here we have one question: is there any way of cracking the machines, or is it purely keywords?
Yeah, that's a really challenging question because it sounds like now we are fighting against the machines, right? An application tracking system is nothing else like a system to manage applications because what I said, there's a lot of increasing volume because everybody's going through the same channels like Monster, LinkedIn. So we need to think that as software, every organization has their own software, right? So there's not such thing as one machine. It depends on the variations and filters and things each software has. So keywords, yeah, it's important, of course, as important as it is, hey, I'm looking for a plumber, hey, I'm a plumber. You don't want to show up saying, hey, I'm a gardener and I do pools and sometimes I can fix something. So keywords is just, in my opinion, just about creating resonance. But one thing that's really important is design. I don't know if there's a way to crack machines, but there's a way to get caught by machines really easily, which has to do with designs. And there's a lot of information there on Google of how to make a design that is useful to beat the ATS. I provide a Dutch resume template on my website, which only has text and bullets for that reason. It has no design, it has no picture, it has no colors. People tell, hey, that's super boring. Yes, it is, but it portrays your work. And for me, the excitement comes from the words you use to describe yourselves, not of the design or the picture or the colors you use. The important thing is that you can really showcase that you can do the job and you can connect this need with the promise and the proof. I hope that answers your question, Joan.
Perfect.
If not, we can continue talking.
um, let me see. Let me see. I have another one. I don't know if we're able to speak a little bit to Assad, which was saying, I want to help companies in the Netherlands to design better learning experiences for employees.
Mhm. That's
So,
fantastic. That's fantastic. So I guess in terms of Assad, the thing would be to portray really well what the problem is. So I can imagine the problem is, hey, many employees have a challenging time learning new skills, or maybe I don't know, Assad, what's the topic, but it could be something related to onboarding. Specifically, now that we're working all remotely, how do you enter a workspace and get on board? So that's something that Assad could jump there into solve. Hey, I want to help companies improve their onboarding because now everybody is working remotely. I can think. I don't know. Assad, we can talk about more about that.
yeah, I think that Assad and Car R will be looking forward for a little space with you later on.
Yeah.
during the one-on-ones. Since we are really on time, actually, we're 5 minutes late.
Yeah, I could answer one more question that I see there.
All
That's a
right.
really important one. How important are extracurriculars in Dutch culture? Like if I play music, do I mention that? Yes, you do. And you're super specific about it because that's your personality coming through and that's what separates you from the others. So usually people say, hey, I like reading, I like watching movies, and I like doing music. That is vague and doesn't say anything about yourself. But if you tell, hey, I like playing heavy metal guitar and I like watching romantic movies from post-war Italy in the 60s and growing flowers, that tells me a lot about yourself. So I always advise just be upfront about who you are, be proud about who you are, and make that come across because that can create resonance and engagement with someone that might share the same passions that you have. That's what makes you different. So I totally advise you to go with it. Yeah, and now we are over time. So whoever
Yep.
is interested, they can book me for a one-on-one meeting, or if you want, just send me an email. It's alvaro@mrcoverletter.com. I read everything. I'm approachable and I'm happy to help you.
Alvaro, thank you very much for your time, and we'll be looking forward to have this chat with each one of the persons which are typing, still typing
Yeah,
things in our
I hope I didn't
YouTube
break
and
the system.
don't worry. So thank you very much, and everyone, we're really excited to join further on in our day in our one-on-ones meeting.
Yeah, super. Thank you,
All right.
Karen.
Bye bye.
Bye.